In this video, we're going to take the standard chord changes to a 12-bar blues and learn how to go from this to this. As you can see, I've written in the standard chords to a 12-bar blues. The 1 chord here, B flat 7, 4 chord, E flat 7, 1 chord, B flat 7, 5 chord, F 7. We end on our 1 chord, B flat 7. So this is the set of chord changes most beginning jazz musicians learn when they're just starting out. It's also the set of changes you might see played in blues bands or R&B groups. Very simple, it's easy to learn. If you're a beginning player, I highly recommend you memorize this progression. It really comes in handy and really gives you a foundation for learning more complex chords and structures. I'm going to talk about how if you're moving on, becoming an intermediate and advanced player, you want to take this knowledge of this form and completely throw it out of the window. Because if you're going to tackle the more modern styles of jazz, you really have to learn different chords and a different way that all these changes are going to move and interact with one another. So the first thing I'm going to do to change this structure is I'm going to add the 4 chord in the second bar. This is something Barry Harris talks about a lot when he's teaching. And then the second thing we're going to talk about is changing this first chord to a major 6 and not a 7. We're taught initially that all these chords have to be dominant 7th, but in reality when jazz players play, there's so many different type of chords that we can use, and we want to make use of as many as we can to kind of give it a rich harmonic sound. A major 6 chord is the chord that Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker would start the blues on. We have to figure out a way to get from this first chord to the second one, to this E flat 7. The best way to do that is to put a B flat 7 on the third beat. The reason for that is the thirds and sevenths of this chord go chromatically to the third and seventh of this chord. Going from this E flat 7 to the B flat 7, put a chord in here that connects the two, and we're going to put it in an E diminished chord. A lot of the notes in the E diminished will slide chromatically from the E flat to the E diminished and then to the B flat 7, so it really works well. This B flat 7 will lead nicely to the E flat 7 in the 5th bar. However, it's kind of stagnant, and rather than stay on this chord for 2 bars, we want to create a little bit more movement. And one of the ways we can do that is change the B flat 7 to a 2-5 progression. F minor, B flat 7. We can leave it like that. We've added a bunch of movement right there, but I think I want to go a step further. What I want to do is put the 2-5 here, and then between these 2 F minors, we can actually put another diminished chord that connects them quite nicely. You'll also notice that most of these chords, almost all of them, move either up a 4th or by step. Up a 4th, stepwise, stepwise, stepwise. It's really natural for the pianist and bass player to move in this direction, and it gives a nice flow to the chords. We could leave it like this, but I'm going to spruce it up a little bit more, and I'm going to put a tritone substitution. I'm going to change that B flat to an E. It would lead really well to the E flat. Going from the E flat back to the B flat, we have to figure out a way to connect those 2 chords, and instead of using the diminished like I did up here, I'm going to do another technique that gets us back to the 1 chord, and that's using the 4 minor. And these chords you'll find in the Bird blues. So we do E flat minor, A flat 7. And again, I'm going to go to the B flat major 6, just a nicer sound. And I can put another little chromatic chord in there, an A diminished, going up to the B flat 6. Instead of this F7, I'm going to put another 2-5, C minor F7. It adds a little bit of movement and color to it. Now we have to figure out a way to get from this B flat 6 to the C minor. Since this is the 2 chord, we can put a 3-6 here that will go nicely to the 2. So we put a D minor G7, and very often when we have our 3 going to a 2 minor, it's almost always a flat 5. The G7, we can also add the flat 9. A flat there leading down to the G. Again, we could leave it like this, but I like to add a little bit more motion. We can go up a 4th from the B flat to E flat and then down a step. So as you can see, all these chords really move well with one another. Going down to this C minor, we could leave it like this. This leads nicely into the B flat, but I want to add a little bit of a tritone sub here. I'm going to put the F there, and I'm going to put a G flat 7, B7. You'll notice that these 2 chords are a tritone away from the C and F. go to our 6th chord. The last 2 bars is what we call the turnaround, which lead back to the top, and they're arguably the most important in the whole piece. So if you're going to add 2 bars of chords to this whole thing, I would recommend putting it in this turnaround. The most common turnaround would be 1, 6, 2, 5, but I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to make this a B diminished. This gives a nice chromatic movement from the B flat to the C and leads right into the 2, 5 back to the top. So as you can see here, we've filled out the entire blues form with all these extra chords, diminished chords, tritone substitutions, and they really give the blues a flow to it and more harmonic sophistication. You can use these when you're getting into more advanced improvisation. This is really going to help. I hope you like this video. Please go on over to Patreon and you can support us for as little as $1 a month to keep this channel going. And of course, you can click subscribe below. That really helps us out. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.